He never expected that a single sentence would change the direction of his entire life. Yet on that burning afternoon in the high desert, when the Apache woman stepped forward, her dark hair whipping in the wind and her voice steady as the earth itself, she looked straight into his exhausted eyes and said, "I choose you to be the father." For a moment, the world stopped. No wind, no insects, no heartbeat inside his chest. Elias Turner, the poorest farmer in the valley, had never been chosen for anything. Not for dances, not for partnerships, not even for luck. His land was dry and stubborn, his crops thin, and his loneliness ran deeper than the cracked soil beneath his boots. The small cabin he lived in was a place of silence, a home to nothing but an old Bible, a broken chair, and memories he tried not to remember. That morning he'd set out early to try, repairing the cattle fence that had fallen during the storm, hoping, praying that the work might distract him from the weight in his chest. But halfway across the ridge, he found a scene that knocked the breath out of him. An Apache woman kneeling beside an injured horse, 3 young children clinging to her clothing, fear heavy in their eyes. Her name was Nalin. She didn't ask for water, food, or shelter, though she clearly needed all of them. Instead, she asked for help lifting the horse's leg, which was wedged between rocks. Elias didn't hesitate. Together, they freed the animal, calming it with soft words, while the children watched with wide eyes, clutching one another for courage. And it was only when everything was quiet again that Nalin studied him, really studied him as though she were measuring, not his strength, but the shape of his heart. That was when she said the words. At first, Elias thought he'd misheard. I'm sorry. What did you say? I choose you to be the father, she repeated, her voice steady but heavy with something unspoken. She motioned to the children. All 3 tightened their grip on her skirt. They need one, and I have chosen. Elias felt the ground tilt beneath him. He could barely feed himself. How could he feed 3 children? He didn't know anything about being a father. He wasn't even sure he knew how to be a good man. I think you must have the wrong person, he whispered. But Nalin shook her head, her gaze unwavering. No, a father is not chosen for wealth. A father is chosen for the safety of the heart. Today you paused your work for strangers. Today you lifted not only a trapped horse, but a burden from my spirit. I see the truth in your eyes even when you do not. Her words cut deeper than any knife, because they touched the one wound he never spoke about. The night he lost his own family to sickness. The night he realized that fate could take everything without warning. He had locked away that pain, convinced that a heart once broken was not meant to hold love again. Nalin, he began softly, I don't know if I can be what they need. Then learn, she answered simply. Learn beside me. The children looked up at him, with a mixture of fear and hope so sharp it hurt to see. Something in Elias cracked open, something he had buried for years. He realized that maybe, just maybe, a broken heart could still choose to heal. He took a slow breath. Come back to the cabin. At least rest a while. We'll talk. They followed him across the ridge and down into the valley. And as they walked, Nalin told him the truth behind her choice. Their village had been raided by a renegade band. Families scattered. Many men lost. A council would decide the children's fate soon. And if no father figure stepped forward, the siblings would be separated into different homes across distant regions. Elias's throat tightened. He looked at the children, siblings who only had each other. Then the memory of his own childhood flashed. His brother taken by fever, leaving him alone. He knew that pain too well. At the cabin, he gave them everything he had. His last sack of flour, water from his deepest well, blankets he rarely used. The children settled on the floor, whispering to one another while Nalin studied the room with quiet gratitude. You live simply, she noted. He laughed softly. That's one way to put it. Yet somehow, the small room felt fuller than it had in years. The crackling firelit shadows danced on the walls, and for the first time, Elias felt like he wasn't simply surviving, he was living. That night after the children slept, Nalin spoke again. You are poor, Elias Turner, but you are rich in the way that matters. No one's ever told me that. And yet it is true. He stared at the fire, wrestling with doubt. If I say yes, I can't change my mind later. They need something permanent, something real. Yes, she agreed. Not a promise of a day, a promise of a life. The weight of that responsibility settled on his shoulders, but strangely, instead of crushing him, it grounded him, gave him purpose. The next morning, Elias made his decision. He saddled his old horse, gathered what little supplies he had left, and said, "Take me to your council." The journey was long, but when they reached the Apache camp, the council eyed him with caution. A poor white farmer, weathered and unsure, hardly the figure they expected. Yet Nalin stood beside him, steady and fearless. She spoke first. "He helped us without being asked. He opened his home without fear. He is willing to take what life has shattered and build it." Again, she turned to Elias. "Tell them." He swallowed hard. "I can't offer wealth or status. I can only offer work, honesty, and a place where these children will never be separated, never be hungry, never be unloved. If that is enough, then I'll be their father." Silence stretched through the council fire. Then slowly one elder nodded. Another followed. Finally, the last raised his hand. The decision was made. When the children ran to Elias, wrapping their arms around his legs, something inside him shifted. Forever, he wasn't the poorest farmer in the valley anymore. He was the father of three, a partner in a family, a protector with purpose. In the following weeks, the cabin transformed. Together, Nalin and the children helped plant a new garden, repair the roof, and repaint the old fence. Laughter filled the spaces where loneliness once lived. Elias learned to braid hair, carve toys from wood, and cook meals large enough to feed 5 hungry mouths. And one evening, as they sat together watching the sunset paint the sky, Nalin looked at him with gentle certainty. "You were chosen because destiny knew your heart before you did." Elias took her hand, warmth spreading through him like sunlight. "Maybe destiny knew what I needed," he said softly. "A family." The message of their story lived not in grand gestures or riches, but in the quiet truth that sometimes the greatest blessings come disguised as burdens. Sometimes love chooses us before we believe we deserve it. And sometimes a man with nothing can become the richest man of all when a single sentence changes everything.